Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 9 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, and time for a sales logic. Mark, we got a powerful show today. What is on the docket?
We got a great show. Topic is how to sell to large accounts. We got a great question that asks about how do you get into big accounts, and the lightning round 10 ways to crack open big accounts. And in between there, we'll talk about a cool book we got. So, hey, that's the show.
All right, you ready to rock and roll? I'll hit the video and we will get going and see what the audience has to say today.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to, well, sell logically. Mark, we got a big show today. So I'd just like to tell the audience how the show works. Every week we come to you 9 a.m. Eastern. We have a hot topic. My favorite part of the show is the question we have from you. We discuss a book, and just so that you get return on investment, we have a lightning round. So, Mark, what is on the dock for today?
Well, on dock for you is you're drinking a lot of coffee because you're on mountain time today, right? Hanging out there
Absolutely.
in Idaho. So anyway,
That's right.
anyway, hey, the question comes from Danny in New Orleans. He asks, I've been assigned a new list of enterprise accounts. I've only got connections with a couple of them. What should I be doing? I know if I don't show major progress within 6 months, I will be let go. Gee, that sounds so typical, doesn't it?
Yeah. So number one is I would start with the ones where you have connections. I mean, take the low hanging fruit, because here's the good thing is there is a chance that some of those accounts are connected to your other accounts. So give yourself a break, start small, and start with those accounts where you have connections. I also want to add though, slow down, take a breath. Don't worry about selling. Let's just get to know these accounts, who they are, and what their challenges are.
You stole my line for me. You slow down to go fast. I mean,
Yes.
that's so true. It's easy for you, Danny, to become overwhelmed. I got to make progress. I got this list of accounts. I got 6 months or less to do it in. Start with what you know and start building relationships and contacts. Don't try to, well, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Now, I don't want to say take your time, but do due diligence on a few accounts at a time and work from there.
Yeah. I would also say put that goal out of your mind of being gone in 6 months. That's something you can't control. Back up and focus on what you can control. And you can control, start to think about. I talked to some of the others in the organization that are really successful. What do they do day in and day out? What are they doing that's really working with those large accounts? What are they doing? What did they used to do, or what do they see that isn't working? That's also a really good question to ask your customers.
It is. And what you're doing is you're just uncovering information. One thing that I also like to say, okay, Danny, take your accounts and begin breaking them out by industry type. Now, maybe they're all in the same industry. And if so, that's great. What do you know about the industry? What do you know about the trade associations in the industry? What do you know about what's happening within that world? Because what that's going to do is going to allow you to be more knowledgeable and more insightful as you begin developing your relationships.
Yeah, you're going to need to go beyond the contact you have too. You need to get to know who the key players are. I mean, one reason an enterprise account is so challenging is because you have to work with so many different decision makers within the account. So you need to get up under there and you need to understand who all needs to be involved in the process and start making connections with those people.
And what that means is that means probably finding contacts outside of those companies. In other words, hey, this is where LinkedIn comes into play. Go
Yeah.
out to LinkedIn. Who are these people connected to? Who are other people? But again, your ultimate goal is to be seen as a peer who can come in and craft a solution that they're looking for. And when you do ultimately break into the account, and I'm not saying to wait 6 months to do it. No, you have to set your sights at different levels. It's easy to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to call the CEO." My CEO is not going to take your call. I always, when going after enterprise accounts, say start at the medium level, maybe even a little lower level, because you're gathering intel, you're gathering insights. Then that gives you the knowledge base and the confidence to really go to the level that you want to go to.
Yeah. Spencer Ripley says here, detail really makes you different. Spencer, what a great comment, because I was just about to go there with that too, is that you need to really understand the problem of those enterprise accounts. I mean, what are their pain points? People don't talk to you because, they need to talk to a salesperson. They're looking to solve a problem. And you need to understand. So even before you start making those calls, research the industry, really understand the industry and what's their biggest pain point and sell there.
It is so key, because when you understand the solution, you can understand more what the outcome is. Now, here's one of the challenges. You can become so insightful on an industry that you lose sight of the customer itself. Where am I going with this? Here's the deal. Every customer in every industry has a different set of outcomes that they're trying to achieve. They're not all looking at the same end goal. So now what I have to do is I have to understand, what are the questions I need to be asking? What's the insights I have to be sharing to begin to get these people to be divulging to me what are the outcomes that they're looking for? Because that's the solution I'm going to walk through the front door with.
Yeah, I love what Bryn Tillman, the master of LinkedIn, has joined us this morning. Wow, Bryn, so glad you're here. She said, LinkedIn is it here. She is exactly right. This is your LinkedIn is a social media platform that is your friend when selling to an enterprise account. Buyer map your accounts and then identify your social proximity to your influencers and decision makers. In other words, what Bryn is saying is go. You may not have a direct account, but maybe I look on there and I'm connected to Mark, and Mark is connected to somebody who works in, purchasing in the enterprise account. And Mark can make that introduction for me, or at least I can refer to the fact that I know and that I'm connected to Mark. But Bryn is so right. LinkedIn is a wealth of information and will guide you to how you're going to get your intro to those accounts.
I look at LinkedIn the same way I look at Google Maps or Apple Maps. You use Google Maps and Apple Maps to get you to the place you want to get to. Isn't that what LinkedIn is? It certainly is. Hey, we should jump over and we should start talking, because we are kind of talking about it right now, but how do you sell to large accounts? Because I got some theories that I want to run past. I hope we're going to create some little counter tension here.
Okay, dive in.
Well, no, you go first, because then I'll know where I want to lead.
Well, okay. I mean, I think that you sell to enterprise accounts a lot of the ways that you sell to every other account that you sell to. Get out of your head that somehow it's so complicated, it's so different. I mean, number one, you need to build your reputation in the market. Always where we say to begin is that you need to realize that you're not controlling the buying cycle. The customer is. They can buy anything they want to, anywhere they want to, from anybody they want to. So it isn't initially the product that they're buying. They're buying you, and you need to position yourself as the expert in the market.
Okay, I like that. Now, here's my counter. Don't go near the purchasing department. Avoid them. They're the business prevention department. I tell you what, one of the biggest mistakes I think enterprise people do is say, well, I got to contact purchasing. No, you don't. What is purchasing all about? Trying to get everything for the lowest cost possible. You're selling solutions. You're selling outcomes. That means you got to find the end user. Who is the person who's going to really benefit from what it is? Now, you may eventually wind up in purchasing. That's fine. But you got to create that masterful solution to help them achieve that outcome first with that end user.
Yeah, I would agree. And then I mean, the way that I go about it though is they're not the first people I approach, but I definitely connect with and I definitely work to win over purchasing because they're one of my gatekeepers that I've got to have on my side. And I don't take purchasing as a negative. That's their job. It's like dealing with the CFO. You know, every time that people say, "Well, I don't want to talk to the CFO, they're going to kill this because they're going to make me prove my results." Absolutely. That's your job as a salesperson. If you can't show the CFO why you need to spend the money, you're not selling, you're order taking. If you can't prove to purchasing that this is a smart investment of the money, then you need to go back and do more homework.
Now, once you have to connect with purchasing, you do want to love on them. Remember, and again, like you said, they're just doing their job.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like to try to find out is what are their objectives? What are their goals? You know, it's amazing if you're selling a physical asset, a physical piece of property, a consumable, we'll say. One of the things that purchasing is doing, they're doing inventory management. They're really doing supply chain management. Be asking them what are their goals, what are their objectives in terms of inventory turns, in terms of cash flow, in terms of all these other because again, purchasing does play a key role. What I don't like is when people pick up the phone and they think purchasing is the entry point into the account. Please, how do you even know they need what you, oh, well, they buy from our competitor? I don't care. You don't, the purchasing agent doesn't understand the full value of what they're purchasing because to them, it's another SKU, it's another item, it's another financial transaction that they're getting off their plate, the contract they got to sign. They're moving documents through. Get to the end user. This is why I say in enterprise accounts, there's a couple things you really have to do. You got to find out who's your champion. Who is the champion who is going to help marshal you through the organization? And then B, who is the economic buyer? Now, the economic buyer is not typically the champion. The economic buyer is the one who controls the budget, while the one who sets the budget, the one who will find the money. You gotta latch on to those two people. Now, you're going to find the champion first, and hopefully, if they're doing their job right, they'll get you that right introduction to the economic buyer.
Yeah, I think the challenge here, I mean, first of all, what Mark is saying is you see, you're going to deal with multiple decision makers. And I do want to say, I think that purchasing gets a bad rap. And the reason I think purchasing gets a bad rap is you need to understand with purchasing, they don't think you understand them. They don't think you understand the goal of purchasing, and they're ready for a fight when you show up. So, as a sales professional, understand purchasing. Say, I understand your job is to keep costs down, to keep inventory moving. You don't want too much inventory in here, too many days on hand. I get what you're going through. Here is how my product is going to help those problems. You heard Mark talking about the champion. You heard him talking about the end user. You heard him talking about purchasing. Every discussion, every sense of sales call is going to be a little bit different with each individual that you're talking to. They're all going to be involved in the product, but what they're doing and the goals of their individual departments are different, and you need to be able to speak to those.
You know, it recalls a conversation I had the other day, and it was with a salesperson who was in the enterprise role also, and he was sharing. He says one of the big problems I'm having moving from selling to smaller accounts to larger accounts is the lead time and the process and the whole decision making process that a large customer enterprise level account goes through to make a decision. And I was asking him, I said, talk to me about that. He says, well, what it means is I am having to change the lead times that I expect in terms of forecasting. When I was in my old role selling to smaller accounts, I could start prospecting somebody at the beginning of the quarter and expect to close them at the end of the quarter. Now at the enterprise level, because they may sign off on it, they may like it, but it may take them 3 to 4 to 5 months before they ultimately write a PO to buy. And he said that has been a major shift in his thinking. And that is a key critical factor. You've got to find out what is the process the customer uses to evaluate, to assess, to ultimately buy what you have to sell.
Yeah, I think along with that, not only the decision-making process, but you need to speak the language. You really need to speak the language of the company. Every company has acronyms. Every company has roles. Every company has, product descriptions and definitions and department divisions and titles. And you need to know what those are, and you need to be prepared to speak the language. Big part of the research. You need to research the industry, but you also need to research, the company. I went in a few years ago with a client that I was working with, and his CEO had me going out on some calls with his sales team, and I heard the sales person say, "Now, I think you've been around about 30 years." And the company had been in that community for 30 years, but they had been in business for over 129. Big mistake. They were so proud of their founding story and the very fact that they had survived really challenging times in a tough industry. He also didn't know where their supply chain came from. It was a very complicated supply chain, which was one of the reasons that we were there. And he knew a couple of the places that their supplies came from, but he didn't intimately understand the supply chain. And we were dead in the water before we ever got started.
I got to reveal, this is a scary story from years gone by, but I'm walking into a Fortune 500 company to sell, meeting with one of the senior people, same floor as the CEO. In fact, as we're sitting in his office, the CEO's office is right next door. And that morning in the newspaper, remember when they used to print newspapers, that company had released their quarterly earnings. And naturally, hey, I'm in the know. Congratulations on your earnings. And as I'm sitting there across from the VP, he's kind of like, and what else? He's kind of giving me this look like, what else did you see? I didn't realize it till that evening when I dove into the Minneapolis Star Tribune a little deeper. Right below that was about a 3-inch article on him just having been promoted into a new position. Yes, I had egg on my face because I failed to do the complete homework. I just did partial. I got enamored. Hey, quarterly earnings, great. I'm going to talk about it. But I failed to see the additional piece at the bottom on him. Yeah, there was some shoveling of dirt I had to do that day.
Yeah, just a little. I think the other thing that you need to realize, I think it's with every type of account, but I think especially with enterprise, is that time is their most precious commodity, and really respect that time. I mean, a sales call is a privilege. It is always a privilege. And so when you go in, make sure that you're using that time as effectively as possible.
Boy, I tell you what, I'm going to run with another story on that. When I used to be director of sales, major Fortune 100 company, I'd have occasionally salespeople come into my office. And the last thing I wanted them to do was to sit there and yuck, yuck, yuck. I wanted them to get to the fact quickly of what we're talking about. But the same token, I did not want them to come into my office and be enamored with the view I had. I had a beautiful view of a lake out behind the office and with the office. And no, because again, I'm in this position. I want to see you as a peer. The people who came into my office and treated me as a peer and demonstrated that level of knowledge, they're the ones who got the time. Everyone else gone in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah. I think, Mark, I think something so important that you're talking about here is that you need to understand the decision maker style in front of you. I think that's really, really important because I'm like you. I just want you to get to the facts. I really don't want to talk about anything. If I gave you 15 minutes, I'd be thrilled if you only took 12. But I sold to a CEO who was on a hiking trip in Europe, and we were hiking together, and he just asked me what I did for a living. And we started hiking together, and that went completely off into the places that we'd hiked in the world, the trips we'd taken and everything like that. He hired me without really even knowing if I told the truth about what I do for a living. But he was very relationship oriented. That's what he wanted to know about me, my family, how I spent my free time. You need to know and respect who is in front of you. It's one reason that sales training drives me nuts is that nothing worse to me than when I get on the phone or the computer with a salesperson, or God forbid they're in front of me, and they ask me inane questions like, "How's my weekend?" Like, that is not who I am. Don't ask me that. However, I respect the fact that there may be CEOs who want to be asked that, and go with that, engage with that.
And that's understand the person almost before you walk in there. And I would hope that your hiking trip to Europe suddenly became a business deduction. So
It
just
did.
saying on that
Yes.
one. Anyway.
Aren't they
Hey,
all?
whoa, wow. Okay. We will save that one for a replay later on. Hey, let's jump into the book, because we got a book today picked out from a good friend of ours who, I don't know, last time I saw Jill was 2 or 3 years ago, but Jill Conrath. In fact, I got the book right here. I made sure I had it on my bookshelf. Jill Conrath, Selling to Big Companies. This came out a number of years ago, but I'll tell you what, it is still gold. And I recommend it to people who are trying to crack into those big accounts, especially if you've been used to selling those smaller accounts. This book is gold. I don't know if you've had a chance to, I'm sure you've read it at one time or another.
I have. There's not a book Jill Conrath hasn't put out that I haven't read. But I don't know anybody who understands the enterprise account better than Jill Conrath. I mean, truly, if you want to dig in a little bit deeper, if you want to understand a little bit more about enterprise accounts, she's definitely the one to follow.
Yeah, she is. She is gold. Anyway, ready for lightning round?
Absolutely.
10 ways to crack open big accounts. You're on the clock.
All right. I would say number one is focus on trigger events. We've got a good friend, Sam Richter. Every time I think of a trigger event, I think about Sam Richter. He talks about him all the time with his sales intel engine. But in other words, what's their biggest shift? What's their biggest change? What's their biggest pain point? Start there.
I'm going to add to that. Find people who have just recently settled into positions, because senior level people in new positions, they want to make changes. They want to make statements. They want to make some bold actions. You want to help them do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bryn Tillman's suggestion, and that is work your LinkedIn connections. Find your entrees to get in to the account that way.
And I'm going to add, don't start with the purchasing department. Start with the people who are going to use you, not abuse you.
Yeah. Use your current connections with big accounts to open other enterprise accounts. It's a small world. It's a connected world. One can lead to another. And if you have blown the mind of your current enterprise account, they will gladly open the door for another opportunity.
Dig in and find out who your customers' customers are. You're going into an enterprise account. Find out who they sell to. Who do they serve? That's going to give you incredible insight as to where they're going as a company.
Yeah, understand the biggest pain points. If you had to nail it down to the top 3 pain points of that industry, of that customer, what are those? And be ready to say how you solve them.
Look at their financial documents, whether that be their annual report, their 10Ks, any 8K filings. Make sure you're abreast of to where they're at as a corporation.
Yeah, know the players. Know the players before you go in. Know who all you're going to need to have at the table in order to everybody who's going to influence that sale.
Look at the hierarchical structure. Are they owned by investment firms? Who else do those investment firms own? Are they publicly traded? Are they part of a larger corporation, other divisions, other areas? It's amazing how much insight you can glean just by doing 30 minutes worth of homework, looking around.
Yeah, I would say that you need to understand who your competitors are that are currently working with them. That'll tell you a lot about a company because you understand, who your competitor focuses on. You'll also understand some of the weak links that maybe what your competitor is not bringing to the table, which could be just the opening you need to get through the door.
Be patient. It's going to take time because they didn't wake up this morning waiting to hear from you. So it's going to take time, and you better spread your reach. Don't try to reach out to just one person. Reach out to multiple people to try to find that one contact that you can begin developing.
Yeah, give them an opportunity to try you on for size. I think one of the problems with cracking the enterprise accounts is that we try to go in too big. We think it should be an enterprise sale, right? We think it should be multiple six figures. But is there a way that they could try you on for size? They could test you out. They could see what you could do. Could you do a mini offer or a smaller account offer or just work with one division or one department?
I'll share one more. You share one more. You stole the one I wanted to share, land and expand. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I keep stealing what you're
No,
what
no.
you're gonna
Hey, this is
what
what
you're
makes
gonna
this,
what you're
this
gonna
is
what
what
you're gonna
makes the
say.
show good, right? Right.
Yeah.
I got no problem with it.
I would say that the last one that I would say is that treat an enterprise sale like every other sale that you would treat it. It's a conversation. It's a relationship. Don't go in there thinking that, you have to land the big fish or you have to sell in a certain amount of time. Don't be afraid of the enterprise sale. One other I do want to add, though, is that the moment that you do land the first sale, make sure that everybody in your company is on board with it. Customer service, operations, because you have just done something that is really challenging, and that's getting through the door with the enterprise sale. And you want to make sure that the service is incredible, because the one thing that is different about an enterprise sale than other types of sales is there is a depth of opportunity with an enterprise sale, unlike any other sale. So the service on the back end needs to be amazing.
And what that means is you don't close the deal, you open a relationship because you're the quarterback guiding your company to servicing the customer you just sold. And that truly is opening the relationship. Hey, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, hey, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott, Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
Hey, and the sale becomes logical. Hey, we want to thank all the new subscribers to the podcast because we're hitting record downloads.
It's exciting.
It really is. We want to say thank you.
All right. And want to say thank you to you, our audience, for joining us for another great week. Always remember, if you've got a question, a topic, anything you want us to cover, reach out at saleslogicpodcast.com. And just as Mark just said, please subscribe if you are not a subscriber. We'll see you right back here next week, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Sales Logic.